And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Knowles coming at you for the RBLR Sports Podcast. I am here, as I usually am, to cover the Rowdies. That is our show coming up tonight. And I'm here not just with my usual co-host. I'm here with a special guest, too. But before we get to our lovely special guest, I do want to ask, like usual, Carlos, how are you doing? How has the week been? There have been, I guess, a couple of holidays that maybe people might be aware of or not. I'm not sure.
Yep. Thanks for asking, James. It's been a solid week. I had a chance to spend some time with my family for Christmas. Always great to see them. Some family came from out of town, got together and shared a great big meal on December 24th, leading up to Christmas. So really, really great time. Always a fun time seeing all of them. Really big Hispanic family. So it was really overall just a great time. Saw a couple of pieces of Rowdies news, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a little bit. So yeah, just a solid week. Pretty slow, but that's the way I like it during my winter break. So I'm taking it easy and I'm just really, really excited for our special guest here. So I'll let you introduce him, James.
Yeah, this is the last episode of 2022, so happy holidays to everyone listening. We hope that you have enjoyed everything like Carlos and I have. But during this gift-giving season, we were thinking about maybe doing a wish list episode, something like that, but it turns out that possibly an even better gift fell into our laps tonight, Carlos, because we have the voice of the Rowdies, Ryan Davis, on our podcast. Hello, sir. How are you doing tonight, and how were your holidays? How was your Christmas?
It was fantastic. Thanks for asking, and thanks for having me on the show. You guys are doing an incredible job. I've subscribed. It pops up on my iPhone, and I listen to you guys. Thank you so much, and thanks for leading the way when it comes to talking about Rowdies and all sports in Tampa Bay. It's been great. Christmas was fantastic. Had family come over to the house, and we hosted. Had a lot of what we call punch or creme, which is our version of eggnog. Lots more rum in the punch or creme than there is eggnog, and which made the Christmas that more special.
That sounds awesome. I would actually like to try that. I love trying all sorts of new things.
New tailgate item. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So Ryan, what we usually do, just going through, especially during the off season, we're just kind of seeing what's new out there. And I think that you've got something new coming up here. I believe that you have a podcast where you are interviewing not just Rowdies players, but coaching staff and getting the real good interviews. So can you please tell us about your new podcast for anyone who is unaware and has, maybe a hole in their podcast heart that they need filled?
So funny you should ask. Thank you very much. It's Muddy Kleats, and I am doing the ultimate sin in podcasting, where I am actually talking to all the Rowdies, which is great, but I'm also venturing off into other areas such as cricket and World Cup, because I just love talking sports. But let me tell you something, having the Rowdies players on and just getting into their day-by-day lives, how they practice, things they like, things they don't like, best moments as a Rowdy, best players they ever played with in their career. Just getting some of that insight is so much fun, and it just provides a person behind the Rowdy shirt. So the next time you see them on the field, you sort of see them in a different light when they do put on the Rowdy shirt, because they're actually, like you and me.
Yeah. I mean, I would think so, but it's always good to know that with an actual interview. So I won't ask you to spoil any of the interviews that you have with the actual Rowdies players. Let me ask you instead, have you interviewed any cricket players? And what have you been doing in the cricket space there? Because I am not too familiar with cricket, but I know obviously it's huge in the Caribbean, and it is very interesting in that way because it actually took off. Like I think I guess baseball kind of has a little bit of the Caribbean and maybe Eastern Asia, but I don't think it's anywhere near as popular as cricket worldwide.
Correct. So my very first podcast was a cricket podcast. And the reason being, my dad was a professional cricketer. So in my household, I played cricket up until I left Trinidad at 20 years old, came up to college, couldn't get a chance to play cricket anymore. But that was very much in my fabric, in my DNA. playing and talking cricket. So had my first podcast. I had a fellow cricketer who's now a cricket journalist by the name of Andre Lawrence, and he broke down what the current sort of pulse is in the West Indies right now for West Indies cricket, and talking about the international format, what's coming up. So it was a lot of fun just geeking out on cricket again and using all the terms that we use. So it was a lot of fun just talking about cricket.
That's awesome to hear, Ryan. That's a fun fact that I did not know about your dad.
Yeah,
being a
yeah.
professional cricket player. So that's really, really cool to hear. Can I ask you then, how did you transfer like into the world of soccer now? Obviously, you know, the voice with the Rowdies, as James called you. How did you go from being that, you know, involved in what I can assume to be a very cricket heavy family, and take it into the world of soccer when you came to the US?
Well, just to be clear, my dad, even though he was a professional cricketer, he played all sports. So what I did growing up was play all sports as well. So there'll be different seasons. There'll be a cricket season and then a football / which is soccer season. I played table tennis. I played basketball. I played squash. But cricket and football was my two sports that I played year round. So I always wanted to be a part of it and always wanted to be a broadcaster. So when the opportunity came around, I was just so excited and happy. To tell you how much of a nerd I was at 7 or 8 years old, I would literally just be kicking the ball against the wall and shouting out different names and commentating the game. While I scored a lot of goals, by the way, in my bedroom with a little ball. Scored the best World Cup goals ever, not ever seen, but yeah, I can tell you it happened. I promise.
I'll tell you, Ryan, I scored a lot of goals right into my parents' glass window out in the front yard. So
yeah, eat your heart
I
out,
understand
Messi.
where you're coming from.
Yep, exactly. It's the best goals. Let me tell you, most fun. But just so because it was a household that really is all about sports, I was so open to the idea when I came to the US. Even though I couldn't play cricket anymore or see cricket, what I did to scratch that itch was to watch baseball. I became a huge baseball fan. A friend got me into baseball, and she took me to Yankee Stadium, not once, but twice. And I really enjoyed it. I loved it. But there was this sneaky team that the Yankees played. And that sneaky team had Nomar Garciaparra, Pedro Martinez, Manny Ramirez, and there was the Boston Red Sox. And I thought to myself, well, I can't really tell her that I like this team because they're Red Sox. But I actually turned out to be a huge Red Sox fan. I went to Fenway Park about 8 years ago and had the time of my life. So what scratched the itch of cricket was baseball. Two incredible sports, bat and ball. And I would love to break down the nuances, the similarities, and the non-similarities between cricket and baseball. Two incredible sports.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think I can forgive you for being a Red Sox fan, just based on the fact that you're a fantastic commentator for the Rowdies.
Thank you. Thank you, Carlos.
So I'm sure you're super duper. I mean, I don't want to tangent on this too much, but I'm sure you're very excited because I recently saw this pop up in my Twitter timeline, actually, about Major League Cricket coming to the US. I don't know if you've seen any of that or the news around that.
Well, thanks, Carlos. Actually, it's been around for 2 years, and I've been doing commentary for the last 2 years in Major League Cricket, and people are really jumping on board. They're really starting to enjoy the game. I just want to give any baseball listener out there what's happening with the other bat and ball sport, which is cricket. So cricket had this obnoxiously long version of the sport, which is 5 days long. It's called Test cricket, right? And that's the origins of cricket. And as it continued to go, they started to abbreviate it while still playing Test cricket over here. Now they've abbreviated it in the last 15 years, where it's 20 overs. I'm not going to get into all that. I'm just going to let you know, baseball-wise, it's 5 innings. You cannot pitch on the inside part of the plate. You can only pitch middle and outside part of the plate. And runs are generated like that. And the game is over in 2.5 hours. It is very, very exciting now. And countries from all over the world, Holland, Italy, Sudan, all over the planet are jumping on to what they call T20 cricket.
Interesting. I
Now that I've bored you
will
guys to tears
probably
on
check
cricket.
that out.
No, that's awesome. I love being exposed to new sports and whatnot. In full transparency, I have no clue how cricket works.
Well, just to give you guys a quick update here, they have tiers of cricket, right? So like leagues. So let's suppose you have the top league in cricket. It will be Australia, England, India, Pakistan. Believe it or not, the West Indies are hanging on, New Zealand. But just below that, the USA is now in that second tier. They are right there. They are coming up. They are grabbing the sport, and they are really, really excited about this shortened version of the sport. So it really has a lot of momentum.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Interestingly, I think the first time I was exposed to like seeing cricket being played in person was I'm sure I ran everybody's ear off about my experience at the World Cup, but it was in Qatar. There's a huge South Asian immigrant population. And I saw a lot of people playing cricket and just had a great time kind of soaking that in, seeing what that's all about. So I would love to see a new sport like that. Not new sport, but a sport newish to the US.
Sure,
grow
absolutely.
here in the near future. And I mean, based on what I've seen in the brief reading I've done over the past week on that, looks like they've got some momentum. So I'm excited to see that build up.
Yeah, it's really quick in the 3 hours. Just to give you an idea, within that 3 hour span, literally 400 runs are scored, and there's roughly about 17 to 18 outs. Well, people who are out, what we call wickets. So it's pretty action packed in that little 3 hours. Carlos, I just heard you mention Qatar. Can you tell me, did you go to any games in Qatar?
I did. I talked, like I said, I talked everybody's ear off about this last week. But yeah, I was at all the Ecuador games in the group stage,
Nice.
as well as the USA Netherlands game, the knockout game, and Uruguay versus Ghana and Belgium Canada were the games.
Wow, that's some good ones, man. Nice.
Yeah, there were some good games. There were some good. I will say Belgium Canada, I distinctly remember as a little bit of a snooze fest, but I will not complain. Like that game, just being there and that experience was incredible. So,
dude, that's amazing. How long was the flight?
Oh my goodness. It was from Orlando to London. It took about 8 hours, another 8 hour layover there, and then another 8 hours to Doha from there. So
that's really, a lot of cocktails. That's a lot of cocktails.
It took a while. It took a while. Yeah. But now we're back in action, and honestly, like maybe we can use this to transition back to the Rowdies, and I've been keeping up so much with all the news and whatnot, and I remember getting those really early morning notifications because of that time difference from the new signings and whatnot, Ryan, and I'm sure you know more about that than we do. But just to throw a couple names at you. I mean, you have Zach Hervo, and I'm still butchering his name, Charlie Dennis, Freddie Kleeman, Connor Sparrow. I'm so excited about him. Any of those names in particular out of the initial new signings, are there any one in particular or two in particular that jump out to you as like a really, really exciting piece that you're just itching to see on the field?
It's going to sound a little boring, but it is Connor Sparrow. I mean, the Rowdies have done such a good job taking care of the goalkeeping position in the last 3-4 years, starting with John McCarthy, and we go through the keepers, and now we have Connor Sparrow. So there really is that confidence behind the back line that there's a very capable keeper to keep the Rowdies in the game if things break down. So there seems to be a real trend with the Rowdies when it comes to rebuilding a team, whether it's every year or every 2 years. Then Zach Hervo. I mean, I'm going to go nerd on you guys here. Birmingham Legion last year, he was second in tackles, breaking up plays, second in duels won, and then transitioning those, winning the possession into chances created. So he's not just winning the ball, he's dynamic enough where he can win the ball and in that open space, deliver a pass and put somebody in on goal or get them a shot on goal. So I'm really excited about Zach, but I don't want to overshadow Connor Sparrow signing. That's a huge signing.
Yeah, I think actually what you just said is important there with the goalkeeping staff at the Rowdies, starting with, Stuart Dobson, I think most prominently, they have done a very good job of replacing any goalkeeper that they've lost. And if we think about the guys that the Rowdies have had in the past, the name that you just brought up, John McCarthy, I think he just helped LAFC win MLS Cup.
Yeah.
He came on in the last couple minutes and he actually got them through the penalty shootout and won them that game. So, these are obviously like big names in the game. And even if they're, MLS level backups, let's say, they are obviously very, very good players for the USL Championship. And I think that if Connor Sparrow keeps in that tradition, obviously it'll be good for us. But he comes with the right recommendation, and that is the recommendation of the Rowdy staff.
And I keep reading on the headlines of Connor Sparrow. USL Championship is one of the culprits as well. Connor Sparrow, veteran goalkeeper at 28 years old. That is the prime for a regular footballer. For a goalkeeper, he's now beginning his prime. So between 28 to 35 will be his prime. So this whole veteran talk of a goalkeeper, we have him just at the right time where he's going to blossom into a fantastic Rowdy goalkeeper.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind having somebody who sticks around for a couple of years after, the time that we've had recently. It'd be nice to have an Evan Loro type guy who lasts for a while, and we can rely on them for a good long period. I think that's what a lot of Rowdies fans actually would probably prefer, if I can speak for everybody at once.
Yeah. Great name, Evan Loro. Lovely personality. What a great keeper. And comes in after John McCarthy, right? John McCarthy does this incredible job. We get all the way to the big dance, COVID hits, whatever. Evan Loro comes in and just does an amazing job. What would have happened if Evan Loro did not get injured while celebrating the Eastern Conference Championship? I mean, that is just insane. You can't, if you took that script director in Hollywood and said, this is what's going to happen, he's going to be like, get out of my office. Nobody's going to believe it.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I have nightmares about that celebration. I think about it every day, Ryan. You just brought up some serious nightmares. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Sorry. These are the things that go through my head. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, but
yeah, I listen to true crime podcasts. Okay, so these are kind of insane.
Yeah, exactly.
My head, all right.
Yeah. No, but Connor Sparrow, I think, is a fantastic name to mention, even though it's like, I guess, the boring position out of the ones I've listed. I mean, he was thinking about last year. I think off the top of my head, the only goalies that I can for sure say were maybe just that much better than him were the what's his name, Steinwasser from Detroit, Morton, Louisville, obviously fantastic, and Farr, obviously, the San Antonio goalie.
Correct.
So I think in that list, I mean, he's arguably up there, the third, fourth best goalie in the league last year.
And what happens when he comes into a Neil Collins styled game or formation where not many chances are being created against him? Talk about clean sheets, minutes per game of not allowing a goal, all that's going to go way up. And Connor Sparrow, I mean, if he's a student of the game, which I'm sure he is, and he's aware of the Rowdies, I'm sure he's looking forward to putting on that shirt and stepping out in the field.
Oh yeah. And to put a number on the clean sheet stat, I just looked it up on the side here. 12 clean sheets last season, which put him in third in the Golden Glove rankings. So really, really, really excited to see what you can do for this team. But yeah, again, just to mention and highlight Zach Hervo again, I think he's one player in particular that stood out to me last season whenever we played Birmingham. I mean, it's a guy who just has really, really good physical presence in the midfield. His height, he's got he's a very agile player for that position. I think that's what you need. So like you said, I'm just really excited to see his role and how he can develop under Neil Collins' system here.
Yeah, and don't forget all of Neil Collins's selections all have this intangible, this mentality, right? So whenever you talk to them or you hear them speak, it's all about wanting to win, all about being competitive, all about grinding, whatever it takes, I'll do it. And the fact that Connor Sparrow falls into that category is just another notch under his belt of what kind of player he is. So I'm really, really excited to see these guys. What does have me concerned, and I'm sure it will be addressed, of course, Castellanos, he is excellent centre-back. Excellent. When he was healthy, he took us to another level. Jordan Scarlett. You want to talk about that mentality I just mentioned, that do it everything for the team, champion mentality. We had to part ways with Jordan Scarlett. So that's 2 center backs that have left us. Lawrence Wyke off to the MLS. So that's 3 center backs gone now. So we have literally Aaron Guillen by himself, and hopefully Connor Antley could help him out in the meantime. So it's going to be interesting.
You do have Freddie Kleeman as well, was the new
Freddie
piece.
Kleeman, correct.
Although, frankly, I don't know a ton about him. What I've read about him and the few highlights I've seen, he looks like he can be a great, imposing presence. And I think that's what sometimes James and we talked about this a couple times last season, was sometimes we just lacked a little bit of height. And I think he can be a guy to help remedy that a little bit. So, but yeah, that's a great point to bring up, because I think I've gotten so caught up in mentioning that we haven't signed a forward yet.
Right.
And how that concerns me a little bit, but I think it's a great thing to bring up the fact that, I mean, even on the back line, we lost a few key pieces, to say the least. So there's big shoes to fill, and I guess we'll have to see what Neil Collins and the front office are cooking up there. But
and like you said with Limon, I mean, I got it right? Freddie Limon. Yeah, he it's a bit like the Forrest Lasso sort of height, dominating proceedings in the air, and I think you really want that from a coach's perspective.
Right.
It's one thing to defend your guts out all game long and then give up a goal on a corner or a set piece, and to have a center back like he is with that sort of height coming in, it's really, really important to dominate that. The ball's in the air. So hopefully he can contribute in that area.
Yeah, and not only just to defend, but to get up and score a corner every once in a while.
Get a goal.
Yeah,
huge.
The free kicks. Yeah,
that takes so much pressure off of the team, you know.
Yeah, Forrest Lasso, I remember, had a couple of really good moments. He got really good at that as the season developed. And I remember, again, something James and I talked about last season, because the height conversation came up, was we didn't really have a ton of people who could really get up and get on the end of a ball or a cross or a free kick. Even though I know Jordan Scarlett ended up with a couple goals at the end of the season, but I don't remember if either of them were headers. I think he was just in the right place at the right time for those.
Yeah,
so
that hunger and desire to get on the end of it, you know?
Yeah. So Kleeman going to be a great signing, I hope, and we'll see what he can bring to the table. But again, really, really important to mention that the back line is in need of a couple of big pieces, to say the least.
Yeah, interesting. Connor Antley is Mr. Everything, right? So he can play right back, he can play center back, or he can play right midfield if we play a 3-5-2. Interesting to see what happens this year. At the end of last year, or midway through the latter part of the season, they switched to a 3-3-1-3, which was really interesting to look at. That's a formation I can get into and bore everyone to tears. But they switched things up, and I love the fact that they switched things up, because the 3-5-2 or the 3-4-3 became mundane. It became predictable, and people were defending the Rowdies a lot easier. They switched to the 3-3-1-3, or they switched off regular 4-3-3. And it really, really made teams second guess, because they came with the blueprint. The Rowdies have been doing this for the last 2 to 3 years. This is how we're going to defend it. And we became very, very predictable. They switched it up, completely turned everything around. Rowdies made that run in the latter part of the season to really get them in a good standing coming down towards the playoffs. And I'm glad Coach Collins and his staff changed things up.
Along those lines, Ryan, with this obviously being a pretty big offseason of transition, we're trying to effectively rebuild the roster. We do have some returning pieces, but it's not everybody, and it's not everybody that everyone from the outside even expected us to have. But with that being said, do you think that possibly the Rowdies coaching staff this year are going to be looking to build an entirely different team from what they've had in the past? Because we've lost so many of the pieces that were large presences, not just large people, but large presences. Forrest Lasso is a large person, but he's also a presence. Yeah. And that's true for Jordan Scarlett, Sebastian Guenzati, Steven Dos Santos. What do you possibly expect at this very early stage of the offseason, when we might not even be able to put together a starting 11?
Yeah, I think some of the guys that have been there and didn't get a full opportunity to impact the game are going to get that opportunity. A guy by the name of Deion Harris, I think this is where Coach Collins hands him over the shirt and say, "It's yours, go get it." And I think that's exciting. So let's not discount what those guys brought. Seba Gwenzati. I mean, how do you replace that? Talk about work ethic, leadership. Look, when you are poaching goals the way Seba Gwenzati has in the last couple of years, that just takes selfless running where the ball never comes to you. And when it does come to you, you have to have the technique to get it past the goalkeeper. Okay. So, and then he has the ability to work off of Leo or whoever's around him, Jake LeCarver, and really play off of him like a wall. So he has different facets of his game. How do you replace that? You really can't. But you bring a different flavor. I think Deion Harris putting the ball in front of him to run onto it can really be upsetting to defense, where he can then either get the shot off himself or square the ball across for on-runners, for people supporting the play, like a Leo Fernandez who's trailing the play. So I think it's a different dynamic, and I think that's what the Rowdies are trying to do right now. Give the players that were there who they think can carry that mantle and give them that opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, and Deion's a great shout, I think, to have a big breakout season, because
Carlos is a big Deion fan.
I'm a huge Deion fan. I love this guy.
Me too.
Yeah, no, and you know, going back to one of our MVP, Leo Fernandez last season, he was a guy who was playing essentially Deion Harris's position the year before, right? Kind of in that wing midfielder, wing back position, depending on what Neil Collins was feeling on the day.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we make the move to put him more up and an attacker at a forward position. And he has this big breakout year. I think, you know, I've been saying we don't have a forward on the roster. We don't have a forward on the roster, but maybe Deion Harris is our first forward on the roster, as well as Leo Fernandez, I guess. But he's a guy I think that, you know, if I had to put in a prediction for some sort of move, I think Deion Harris gets put up to the striker role, and Neil Collins lets him run around a little bit. I think it would be a huge move, and I think he could do well up there, Ryan.
I think Coach Collins gave us a snippet of that at the end of last year. He started to play Harris coming off the bench. So rather than playing for 60 minutes, he played him for 30 minutes at the end. And he was playing Deion as a center forward. Even though Deion has this tendency to drift wide, to give himself some room, that's okay. Once you partner him with someone who wants to be a presence in the box, that's okay. But if there isn't someone to partner him in the box who wants to be that poacher, that traditional number 9, then Deion is going to have to switch things up and stay more central as the season goes on. And that's something he's going to learn, you know, playing that position for the entire season. I think is exciting. I love it.
Yeah. Another player that I'm excited to see, and this is a guy that was coming into the offseason last year. I was like, this is going to be one of our best signings. I'm so excited for him. But it was unfortunate that he experienced a couple of injury problems over the course of the season. It wasn't just one necessarily, but I think that we might possibly see a good run on, I'm assuming, the left side of the midfield, but we'll see. Jake Araman hopefully coming back for a full season, and I'm expecting big things from him. You know, I think that he might not have the same, upside, the same promise to him as Deion Harris, but I think that the player, the level of player that he is already at is, you know, very good for the USL Championship and very good for us as a team trying to build.
Well, we look at Leo Fernandez's MVP season, right? The only way he gets to play that attacking midfield role, that number 10, is because Arman was bought to cover that spot, Leo's spot out wide. So Jake Arman comes in, like you said, bit of turbulence to begin the season, injuries. Then we have to start covering that gap over on the left-hand side while Leo continues to produce. So I think if Jake steps in and can stay healthy, I think you'll see a lot more productivity. And the coaching staff obviously thinks it as well. If he's going to be out there and be healthy, I think we could expect a lot more from Jake Arman, and trust that he will definitely provide opportunities, get some goals, and of course defend. So yeah, he's a big player coming up this season.
For sure.
Is there anybody that you think, either are there any positions that we haven't really hit on, or are there any players out in the league that you would personally like to see come to the Rowdies? This was going to be our little wish list episode previously, like I said, and maybe you've got something on your wish list for this club here.
What about Ioski over at Orange County, who led the league in scoring? I wouldn't mind him partnering Darren Harris.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, if you're going to go for it, go big, right? So I don't think he's going to leave California, though. Yeah, Ioski was somebody I would have wanted. I think somebody, to Jake LaCava was so quick and unsettling to defenses. I think you have to bring that presence to replace that. You can't bring someone who's just tidy, has a nice touch on the ball, who can keep the game in front of them. You need something someone who has a difference maker, someone with that extra step, that extra pace, that brilliant control to really set things up for Leo or set things up for Dion. So I really hope out on that left-hand side, if they play a 3-4-3 or that forward that they're going to partner up top, I really want somebody dynamic. I don't have a name on the top of my head right now, but I really think the Rowdies, if they're going to do it, they're going to do it correctly. And I think they're really going to look for that person to make an impact in that starting 11. Not just someone to make up the numbers, not just someone who's just going to score 8 to 10 goals. They are going to want someone to really continue the Rowdies surge into being back into the Eastern Conference Finals and being a difference maker, MVP candidate with Leo, that sort of player. So you can trust that they're thinking the same things we are, where they're not going to just sit back and allow something mediocre to come into that starting 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you. I think I can put my full trust in Neil Collins and his staff to search the market for, like you said, a high impact player. I think one of the names that, again, I'll save this, I guess, for another episode, so I won't get too much into it, but a player I've always, I say always, for the past couple of seasons, I've wanted to see come to Tampa Bay. It has been Augustin Williams from Charleston. He's just such a high impact guy. He can make a goal out of nothing. I feel like he brings that LaCava like energy where you can just kind of take you on one-on-one and create some havoc in the back for a defense. But I think he did get recently re-signed, or he'll be at Charleston next season again, from what I saw. Yeah, I don't think Lee Cohen, now that he's over there, will let him go. Yeah, especially to his old club. But if we can finagle that one day in the near future, that would be a piece I would love to see come down here, because he's just such a talented guy and he plays with so much ferocity. I think we need somebody like that. If we're gonna, I mean, obviously, like you said, there's huge shoes to replace in some of the guys that left, especially in Guinzati. And I think we need a high impact player like that to come in and really just create some havoc from the start.
Well, forgive me because the name escapes my mind, but a person who, we were just talking about the centre-back role. There's a centre-back from Trinidad and Tobago in Charleston, plays for the national team. And
Leland Archer.
Thank you. And I know Coach Collins is a fan of his, because we were down on the field and I was talking to Leland, who we went to the same high school together. So we kind of trading stories about high school. Wow. And Coach Collins comes over and I said, Coach, you think we could sign this guy? And he said, I would love to, but we're going to have to work things out, of course. But I would love to see Leland Archer come in to play centre back for the Rowdies. So I'm sure the GM over there right now is probably throwing something at the wall as I say this. But yeah, it's definitely would love Leland Archer in a Rowdy shirt at centre back for sure.
While we're on that subject, Ryan, I was wondering, in that sense, for the Trinidad national team, are there any other guys that you think that maybe the Rowdies are missing? Maybe even if it's Trinidad or just like the Caribbean as a whole, somebody in our price range, so to speak, but somebody who would be flying under the radar just because maybe people aren't tracking him too much.
Yeah, Indy Levens, left centre back. He has Kane Rowe. He plays for Trinidad. God, the names are just escaping me. He can play left center back, he can play left back, or he can play holding midfield. He is someone I think the Rowdies can really use because he's international level and he's not good. He's gonna make very few mistakes, and I think he's gonna buy into what Coach Collins wants, which is that very ferocious, aggressive style of play. Even though he's a defensive player, still very aggressive. In partnering the back line, whether it's left back, left center back, or giving a partner to Lewis Hilton in that holding midfield role. So I can't think of the name right now, but he plays for Indy 11.
Is that Hackshaw, or am I confusing that for somebody else?
Hackshaw. That's the guy.
it. Okay.
Yeah, I think he'd be a great addition. Now, up top, Colorado Springs forward. Absolutely dynamic from Africa. He is absolutely electric. He was the MVP 2 seasons ago.
Oh, Haji Berry?
Haji Berry. I mean,
Fantastic piece as well. Yeah.
Because he can drift out to the left or he can play the center forward. It's a coach's dream, right?
Yeah.
God,
he's had some crazy moments in the highlights I've seen from his show up on Twitter. The USL loves retweeting and sharing his content. Because I mean, and I don't blame him. He's an exciting player to watch.
He's electric. He really is.
Yeah, that would be a great piece to bring down here as well. But it's hard for these teams to let go of their superstars, and I think he is definitely Colorado's superstar. So hard. I would love to see it happen, but that's one of those that I think might just be on the wish list for a little while.
What about Indy 11 having El Capitan and Juan Tejada now? Is that crazy?
Yeah, man.
What a landing spot for those guys. I mean, great for them. They have a spot to land. And then Indy 11 is like, oh yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And they have, don't they have Asante? Didn't they bring Asante across from Phoenix last year?
You know, I think they did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have Asante, Tejada, and
that's a great front three to play with it. But I feel like now we have to take somebody from Indy 11 at this point. I mean,
exactly.
We can't just let them
exactly. Go get him.
Exactly. We can't let them get away with that. So maybe that's our shot to go get Hacksaw. There's no Rowdies former president over there at the team to stop us from taking their players. So gosh, I hope Lee Cohen's nice to us in the near future and can send us a couple of great players out of for old time's sake.
Maybe it's an inside job, him going to Charleston.
Yeah. Who knows?
That would be incredible.
So, Ryan, if I could take us back a little bit, I want to take one step to what we were talking about earlier with Carlos going to Qatar. I'm assuming that you saw the World Cup as well, and I'm assuming that maybe based on if I believe I'm correct that you were a huge Maradona fan growing up. So I wanted to ask you what your opinion was on not only Argentina winning, but what I think a lot of the online persons for the soccerscape, including myself, quite possibly, are thinking that Lionel Messi might be among the best players ever, if not the best player ever.
So I think the third or fourth podcast was all about Argentina. It was the day or 2 days before the World Cup. And we broke down the squad. I'm such an Argentine geek. And we broke down the squad. We talked about the history of Argentina. So yes, thank you for asking. I did watch the World Cup, very much so. I had blood coming out of my eyes, literally, last week Sunday, as France equalized, not once, but the second time. Couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it was happening. So I'm actually doing the next podcast will be this week. It'll be all about Argentina Part 2. 36 years later, Maradona lifts the trophy in the Azteca Stadium in Mexico. Now Leo Messi, another diminutive left-footed, supremely talented player, raises the trophy in Qatar. So we'll be talking about that. And the question of Leo Messi being the greatest of all time, I think he is. Diego Maradona always ends up on top of the list. I was so fortunate to see him because Diego Maradona always played on teams that were less than everyone else. So he would drag a mid-tier team and drag them to the top, where we see so many players like Pelé play on the best teams and win, right?
That's true.
They're the crowning jewel of that team, Messi for Barcelona. When Maradona goes across to Napoli, and Serie A was the hottest league in the 80s and 90s, he goes across to Napoli and takes a mid-table team. Okay, it's like Everton in the EPL, and drags them and beats all the big dogs, not once, but twice in 4 years. 4-4-2 just goes nuts on this whenever they have their all-time ranking. It's so hard not to put him there, because you want to talk about individual brilliance. Well, there's the individual brilliance. It's hard to argue that. And then with his Argentina team in 1986, a very workman-like team that all surrounded him, that all played around him and worked off of him. Whatever Diego does, we'll do. And guess what? In 1986, Diego Maradona played the highest standard of football that no other human being has ever reached for that month. That month of June, 1986, in Mexico, no other player played to that standard of football in the history of the sport. And we all saw it, and it was just amazing to watch. So that's why he always wins the argument of the greatest of all time with Pele. I'm not arguing Pele at all. I only saw Maradona, I never saw Pele. But that's why he's always, for Messi to get past that. I mean, he had to win in Qatar, and but he's just been doing it for so long, Messi. He's doing it for 18 years now. He's just been rewriting the books. Whatever record you want, he rewrote it. You know, so it's so hard to argue against him not being the greatest of all time. And he doesn't even care. He's the kind of guy, he has 3 kids, a wife, and he just wants to go home and hang out with his family. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird. He's a football nerd where he just wants to play football, talk about football, and go home to his family, and that's it. You know, while the other guys are partying and having a great time. It's weird.
Yeah.
So yes, I think
that's true.
I think, sorry, just to wrap this up, I think the length of time that he produced all of this incredible material was longer than any other footballer in the history of the sport. Nobody did it for that long.
Gotcha. Well, one quick further question about this. Now, I think obviously Lionel Messi playing at Barcelona, that was the best team in the world for many of the years he was there. He moved to PSG, which has more money than God, obviously, and they can afford to bring in anybody they want. I mean, Lionel Messi can literally just tell the board, like, I'd like you to sign this guy, and they go and do it. But one thing I will ask you, I don't think, and I'll have to go back and listen to your episode breaking down the team, because I really would like to here. I don't think that this Argentina team was actually that good of a team overall. I think that, they have a couple of superstars like Messi. I think that Angel Di Maria is a perpetual winner. I think that Emiliano Martinez, he's not that great of a shot stopper, but he is probably the best in the world when it comes to penalty shootouts.
Oh yeah, what a guy!
And and so I think that Enzo Martinez and Alexis McAllister, they have some potential, but they're obviously not world beaters yet. I feel like Messi was really dragging this team up, like you were just talking about, and then everybody alongside him was just playing like, okay, we got to do everything we can, whatever role we have to play, it doesn't matter. I will run until I literally can't run anymore, so that we can give Messi the platform that he can go out and do what he does.
There was definitely a 1986 feel to it where they all surrounded him. All right, Enzo Fernandez. All right, listen, what caught all of us by surprise is that when Argentina got the monkey off of their backs when winning the Copa America last year, Rodrigo de Paul on top of his game, Di Maria on top of his game still, Giovanni Lo Celso was a big piece to the puzzle, and he got injured just before the World Cup. Huge piece of the puzzle. And what I love about these youngsters from Argentina, they took their chance. Enzo Fernandez says, oh, my turn, I get picked. Let's go. Remember that goal against Mexico to make it 2-0? Fantastic shot. Cool. That's Enzo Fernandez. He took his opportunity. McAllister, after Argentina lost to Saudi Arabia, every game after that, if you want to just do the math, every game after that was a final. They could not even draw. or else they wouldn't get out of the group. They had to beat Mexico. They had to beat, what was the third team, guys? Just remind me. Poland. And it was McAllister's goal to unlock the game, to make it 1-0. Because remember, Poland just sat behind the ball like Mexico, saying, Argentina, you know you have to win. We know you have to win. We're just going to sit behind the ball and play counter-attack. Messi's opening goal against Mexico. McAllister's opening goal against Poland. Brilliant. Just the youngsters stepping up. Julian Alvarez, who plays in Manchester City. Poor guy comes across from River Plate, being the biggest thing out of Argentina, and understandably can't get into the lineup. A guy called Haaland is playing across in Manchester City. He can't get in. He can't play. So he's just sitting on the bench there waiting for his time. And then he gets his chance in the World Cup. So you have a 21-year-old Fernandez, a 22-year-old Julian Alvarez, and a 23-year-old McAllister says, now is my time. I get the opportunity. I'm taking it. And these youngsters stepped up, and they were huge, not only for the energy, but the goals that they got, creating chances for other players, supporting Messi. I think it was brilliant to watch these youngsters step in. Brilliant.
For sure.
Yeah. I was hoping all along that I mentioned Barcelona when Messi was playing there. The 2008-2009 season, I watched literally every single one of their games on the old Fox Soccer channel. They always played it the Friday after. They had, the week after, and I watched every single one of those games, and I was absolutely mesmerized. And since then, I've always wanted Messi to get to that level, and it was looking like maybe it wasn't going to happen. And then this year, obviously, like you said, they won the Copa America previously. It looked like they could put it all together. Yep. And when the friend and I, who watched every single Argentina game together, we got up at 5 a.m. to watch them lose to Saudi Arabia even. But when he and I got to see Messi actually win it in the end, there were definitely some tears. And
my God.
Yeah, it was a great time.
I'm going to go nerd on you guys here. Argentina matches up mano a mano against France, 4-3-3 versus 4-3-3. Scaloni takes Di Maria, who is usually playing on the right wing. He puts him on the left wing. Di Maria, he tells Di Maria knows this is his last 90 minutes for his country. After serving his country for 12 years, this is your last 90 minutes. Go get it. He takes the ball down to Koundé on the right, who's playing right back for France, and just goes at this guy for the first 60 minutes. Dembele, who is the France right wing, has to come all the way back to double up on Di Maria, completely takes the Dembele out of the game. Rodrigo de Paul and the right back Molina double up on Mbappe on the other side. France have nothing for 65 minutes. Argentina are up 2-0. They start to see the light. Scaloni takes off Di Maria, who's tired, and goes to a 4-4-2. France throw caution to the wind. It sticks. They get the penalty, and everything goes upside down. 65 minutes later, everything just goes right around. It was crazy to watch. What a final. It was amazing to watch.
What a game. Yeah.
It was, oh my God. It was one of the best games I've ever seen because it meant so much, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah. To the expense of Argentine hearts, yes. It was one of the best.
Yes, exactly. I think they might have taken a couple years off of all of our collective lives.
I would have been so happy with a comfortable 2-0. It'd been so much easier. But it
makes it all the more emotional. I think those Argentinians down there will always remember that game. I think it makes it. I don't know. I always have this debate within myself. I'm like, the Rowdies go back to a final. Do I want it to be a Louisville conference final type win, or we come back and it's just one of those games you never forget?
Yes.
Or do I want a comfortable 2-0, 3-0 win?
You could sip on your Coke and relax. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's benefits to both for sure, but I know it's one of the games that I think even casuals will always remember. People that don't even like the game that much, people that tune in once every 4 years. That's a game that everybody's going to remember across the world.
I'm getting real Pele vibes from Mbappe. He is exceptional.
Yes.
Exceptional. And he's playing on a great team like Pele did for Brazil in that era. But he's the crowning jewel on that team. And he is really, really tough. Coach Collins, who came on, he said this. He said, you're looking at Mbappe and he looks really fast, right? I'm like, yeah, he looked really, really quick. He's going up against the quickest guys on the field. The quickest guys are marking him, and he's looking quick. That's how quick he is. It's incredible how good he is, and he's defining that touch as well, where he's cutting inside and finishing to the far post or laying balls off other players.
Yeah,
just really incredible to watch. Really, really incredible.
Maybe we add Mbappe to the wish list for next week. We can talk about
Yes.
if Mbappe could ever be so lucky to be a Rowdy.
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, maybe that's why we're taking so long to sign a forward. We got the big contract negotiations in the works. Like, it's
guaranteed Ballon d'Or if he comes to be a Rowdy. Guaranteed. That's what Coach Collins is saying.
Yeah,
it's done. Yeah,
beautiful. There it is. Then there it is. Ryan, let me ask you about.
Well, with that thought.
Oh,
yeah.
James,
go ahead.
James, I've been wondering about this because this is something that me and James talked about last week. Was the new season format. For the regular season this year. It means we're going to have a lot more opponents from the Western Conference, actually all of them at least once this season, which means that you and Drew will have a couple maybe new teams to call games against. Is that something that you're looking forward to? Or what are your thoughts just in general about that new structure? Because I think personally, I'm really, really excited to see a couple new teams come to Outlang and us get out there to the West Coast, a couple new venues.
Love it. The USL are fearless. They are taking this league and rewriting what a league's supposed to look like in this country. I don't think this is the end of it. It's the first chapter of making change. I love the fact that the West Coast is coming across now, and it gives a little more bite to the actual league. That means you can't see anything. Everybody's trying to play everybody at least once. They're trying to anyway. And it really gives a lot of credence to the league, not just the playoffs. And your league record will reflect you playing just about everyone in the league. So I think it's awesome, and I love the direction the USL Championship is going in. Love it.
Yeah, that's a piece that I'm really excited to see, and I know people in the Ralph's Mob circles have already been talking about the new venues that they're trying to get out and see on the West Coast, because there's a lot of cool stadiums out there. And honestly, I think the Western Conference has been something I don't follow too much, because it's just like for most of our time in the USL, it's been one of the things that you don't really have to worry about them until you make the final, right?
And I want to get away from that, Carlos. I want this league to be, are you in the league? Well, I'm following the league. So we have to play you guys in May or June. Yeah, I'm watching what you're doing, and it's no longer East and West. It's the USL Championship, and that's what I want to get to, where everyone is all in the same boat, and we're all paying attention. That's when the league is really rich, and everybody counts.
Yeah. There's definitely more incentive for a Rowdies fan to watch, a Sacramento versus Reno game or Sacramento. I mean, there's just a lot of good games out there sometimes that just slip under the radar for me personally, because there's not a ton of reason for me to sit down and watch it. But I think this gives me a reason, at least concretely, to scout out a couple opponents and see what we're going up against. Because I think it, just like you said, it makes the league a lot richer. It makes it a lot more fun to play new teams, to I don't know, have that banter with fans on Twitter from a community that you've never interacted with. I think it'll be a good time. And I think, like you said, it should just be for the better in this league.
I think so. And I hope USL continues to blaze the trail and really continue to grow this thing.
I think they're doing a great job of it, personally. I agree with everything you guys said. Retweet on that. But Ryan, is there anything else that you would like to hit on before we get out of here? I know, obviously, if you want to retouch on your podcast or give listeners any more update on that, I know that I will be subscribing just as soon as we are out of here, because I have missed out on not only your Argentina talk, but also some very in-depth Rowdies interviews.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going to continue bringing the players on. Going to hope to get some of the new signings to come on and talk about their journey to being a Rowdy and what their expectations are. And yes, we're going to talk about, for all the Argentine geeks out there, they will be all about Argentina Part 2 coming up this week, talking about 36 years later, what it means for Argentina, what's next for all these players, what's next for Messi, and looking forward to the next international competition. So you're going to have the intercontinental competition coming up next summer, where South America, Europe, Asia, everyone meets and plays in that big tournament. That should be fun. And yeah, just continue having great conversations, and looking forward to a fantastic new season.
All right. I think that is great. Well, on that note, I think we will also leave it here. Listeners, thank you for tuning in to RBLR Sports and a very, very good episode that we have put out tonight with Ryan Davis. You can find us at RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Ryan, what about you? Where could they find you, and what is the name of your podcast again, just to make sure everyone has it?
Thanks. It's Muddy Kleats, and that's with a K. Muddy Kleats, and you can find it on all like iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. My platform is usually Anchor, so you can find it anywhere you can find podcasts. Muddy Kleats, and we try to cover just about everything we can in sports, and of course the Rowdies.
All right, and I am available on Twitter if you would like to get at me at RBLR James K. Carlos, what about yourself?
Yep, at Carlos GPA10 on Twitter. Yeah, just been tweeting about what I've been saying. Let me tell you. Oh, I was upset about the Bucks' performance on Sunday. I was ranting about that. I'll save that for the Buccaneers guys. But yeah, follow me on Twitter. I retweet a lot of stuff. I say a lot of opinions that don't mean anything. But yeah, also quick side note. I just saw a piece come up right now when I opened my Twitter that the owner of the Bowie Bay Sox minor league baseball team in Bowie, Maryland, is looking to purchase Loudoun United. So new development on that front. I think the last team to have an MLS connection in the USL next year could be moving away from that next season. So something to keep an eye on. Some breaking news, I guess, to throw in the mix here as we wrap up the show. But yeah, keep an eye on that. Good article from Washington Post and Stephen Goff to keep an eye on.
All right. Well, yeah, everyone keep an eye out for that. And if you have any questions, please use the hashtag AskRBLR. You can also like and subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, Apple and Google Podcasts. We are on YouTube and all other major podcast platforms. And Ryan Davis's podcast will be linked in the description to our show. So please check that out as well. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. We're going to send you out now. And as always, for 2022, come on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.